I often tell people that becoming a nurse was the best decision I ever made for myself. Little did I know that being a nurse during a global pandemic would forever change my life. I knew ever since I was 14 years old that I wanted to be a nurse. When my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer during my freshman year of high school, the nurses who cared for her left an impression on my life that is still with me to this day. I knew this was the kind of difference I wanted to make for others when I grew up. Fast forward a few years later, and I received my acceptance letter in the mail for nursing school. The 2 years in nursing school were grueling and not easy to say the least, but I worked hard and persevered because I knew this is what I wanted. I started my first job in 2017 at Providence Regional Medical Center in Everett on a medical surgical dialysis unit. The first few months of my nursing career felt like I was on a high. They were filled with joy and excitement. I was finally a real nurse. During my first 3 years of being a nurse, I learned so much. I grew not only as a healthcare provider, but as a person. I cared for patients during their most vulnerable times, often at their worst. I was able to be there as patients would receive some of the worst news of their life. I also got to experience the happiness of discharging patients home after a long hospital stay, and the smiles as they walked out the main entrance towards their family were priceless. I've had the opportunity to work alongside some of the greatest people I've ever met and became part of a team that was so strong. I felt like I was right where I was meant to be. It is now February 2020, and the very first reported case of COVID-19 in the U.S. was at our hospital in Everett, Washington. During the days, weeks, and months to follow, the whole world was flipped upside down. The world for me, the world for you, and the world for all of us was not the same. We went into our first lockdown in March of 2020. However, being a healthcare provider, we were deemed essential workers, so we had to continue to show up and do our job. It's hard to describe how tough it's been. And if you've worked in the healthcare setting at any point during these last 2 years, then you know. You know the defeat, the feelings of exhaustion. There was no light at the end of this tunnel. Being a nurse during the pandemic quite literally sucked the life out of me, and it did it slowly. Each 12-hour shift that went by, I lost a little bit of my spirit, a little bit of my patience, and a little bit of my light. It was in January of 2021 that my dear boyfriend sat me down after a particularly rough shift and told me, "I think you are depressed, Renee." It took someone else telling me for me to finally face it. And he was right. I needed to make a change. The beauty of nursing is that there are so many avenues of work. The beauty of change is it's sometimes just what we need. In spring of last year, I attended my first aesthetic medical training class with a good friend of mine and fellow nurse. I was introduced to a world of medicine that was quite literally a breath of fresh air. During the spring, I started my job hunt to become an aesthetic nurse injector. I found my current employer at a beautiful medical spa in Lake Stevens. I trained and job shadowed and soaked up every bit of knowledge I could from my medical director. The world of aesthetic medicine is fun, it's artistic, and I'm still able to make a difference in others' lives. It was just the change I needed. I'm now full-time in my new role as a nurse injector, and I'm loving every minute of it. I'm part of a team of women who are passionate, kind, intelligent, and full of light. Sure, this field brings its own challenges, but I am no longer at the mercy of working in a hospital. The weight I used to carry of feeling like I had no other options is gone. I share my story with you in hopes to encourage change. Whether you work in healthcare or not, if you are unhappy with your job, you are not stuck, I promise. You don't owe anyone anything, especially your own mental health. Create a life that you are proud of, even if it looks so much different than what you had planned. These are still difficult times that we are facing, and you must choose to do what is best for you. To my fellow healthcare workers still fighting on the front lines, thank you. I see you and my heart feels for you, and I know we will get through this.